spent the last 45 minutes or so just getting the car up higher than it was. I found some wooden blocks, or discs if you like, MDF discs in the garage here, and I also used my axle stands, further extended at the back than they are at the front. Those aren't actually really touching at the front, they're just for support should anything go wrong. I'm also going to put some big blocks under here just in case anything happens with those axle stands. I don't expect it to, but just in case. But as you can see, that gives me quite a bit of clearance underneath to tackle the bolts on the manifolds. So that is the next job. Okay, so I am back working on the Porsche today. It's, Wednesday afternoon, just after work. So taking a couple of hours off just to we'll try and make some progress on the Porsche. So the plan is this afternoon is to lower the engine down slightly, just to see if I can get those two brackets off left and right. And then if that goes well enough, I'll probably move on to taking the angle grinder and cutting off the manifolds. I think that's and the heads of the bolts on the manifold flange, so that the 12 bolts that hold the manifolds in, 6 on either side, if I cut them off flush with the manifold flange, then the manifold will theoretically come off, or the manifold flange will come off, having cut the manifolds off, and then I'll be able to work with the stubs that are left over. I had quite a lot of success actually with one of the bolts that I snapped off in the block before, which was one of the 2 bolts that hold the bracket onto the bottom of the engine, and I heated that up and it came out with the mole grips quite well. So hopefully, in theory, that will happen with the 12 bolts that will that hold on the manifolds. I'm sure there are probably people sitting at home right now who have done this job and saying that ain't going to work, but rather than having to drill them all out, which I might still have to do, this is my first port of call. So I'm going to start by loosening off these nuts here on the engine mounts, left and right, which are just here. Oops. And see if I can bring the engine down a little bit in order to take this bracket off here. Finally off. That took a bit of doing. Bloody Nora. It's amazing that this part of it is absolutely fine. It's just the rest of it that isn't. So that's what I had to do. I had to angle grind all of the pipes off. That section first, but hopefully I will be able to get to the flange itself, so I'll be able to cut those off flush. So now the question is, having lowered the engine slightly down, whether this bracket comes off. Sort of still stuck up there. Amazing, maybe, will it? That coil pack's in the way. Oh, there we go. Oh, wow. Okay, so that means I don't have to take the engine out to put these brackets on. But this is a first look at these brackets. Annoyingly, I cut, where is it? I cut through it a little bit, I thought, didn't I? Oops. Yeah, there. Well, I scored it a little bit because I thought, because these are so expensive, I thought I could possibly save these and remake that part there, but probably not. But anyway, that's what they look like. Pretty knackered. They rust here because they're made up of little, or very thin leaves of metal, just steel really. And yeah, so that's a first look at that engine bank, if you like, right hand side of the engine without any of the brackets on. So this is a quick look at the manifolds now that I've cut the the downpipes off, or as much as I can at least, with the angle that I can get in there. But you can really see with the light on them how those header bolts have just quite literally fused with the flange of the headers. It's amazing, really. They've just, you know, just become a single piece of metal. So I mean, I'll heat them up and see if I can get them to budge. But as I say, my plan is, it's a bit difficult to get the angle grinder in there really, but the plan is just to cut these off flush with this, which will hopefully break the seal between this, and then this flange will come away and I'll be able to somehow get the stubs out. But that was my initial plan, but now I'm looking at it, I don't really think I can get the mole grips in there very well. There's all these things, these parts of the engine which are in the way. So I'm not quite sure at the moment. Okay, so this is the first bolt, which I really hope doesn't snap now, seeing as I'm videoing it, but I've angle ground away all of the edges of the flange. I've cut in there with the angle grinder and I heated it up, and it seems, look at that, it's coming out. It's the first one. So another momentous occasion for me. This is the first header bolt to come out and it's not snapped. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. The thread is actually perfect on the inside. So I think the only issue is these will snap because the heads rust to the flange, as you can see there. That's how I had to get it out. I had to cut away that flange, smack it away with a chisel, and that essentially breaks the part of the metal which is joined to the head of this. Under here you can see there was a clear gap. But that is the first bolt out.